Thank you for joining me here today. I'm very pleased to be here to talk about, at a high level view, cap and trade in Ontario and what that means to Enbridge customers. Now, I say Enbridge, this is a provincial program, so I guess everything I say can apply to Union Gas customers as well. So wherever you are in Ontario, this information would probably be applicable to you. I want to reiterate, this is a high-level discussion of cap and trade. There are a lot of details and a lot of regulatory things that are still going through the regulatory process, and I don't want to get too deep into some of the regs. But as far as it impacts the average customer, I think a lot of the information that we have here will you'll find of interest, hopefully. There are going to be websites and links to websites that I'm going to be posting on the presentation. If you do want to dive into some of the intricacies of the program, you can, to your heart's content, go after it. But I think as a way of introduction, you may have already heard that the federal government is planning on setting minimum carbon pricing for provinces that don't already have a carbon plan in place by 2018. Both British Columbia and Alberta have a plan in place, and they're setting pricing for carbon through a tax that they've imposed. Here in Ontario, the government has decided to go through a cap and trade program route, and the start date is January 1st, so it's coming upon us quite quickly. The other thing the government has stated is that they want to create a carbon market, or at least join a carbon market in North America. And to date, that means California and Quebec, which are the only other two participants in a cap and trade market right now. So although that link hasn't been finalized yet, I think that's the direction the government has, or the Ontario government has stated they're going in. As you know, cap and trade is part of the Ontario government's fight to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They've set a province-wide cap, so it is a provincial program, so the cap is province-wide and applies to all gas consumers or all facilities in Ontario. As I say gas consumers because we're focusing on gas, but it's all green. It's really focused on greenhouse gas emissions. So whether that comes from another source, you're still under the rules of cap and trade. And as I said, a lot of the details are still in the regulatory phase. So what we're going to be putting forward are things that have already been set and or subject to change down the road. Now, the program really is the government setting or creating a market of allowances. And you can consider allowances as being permits or allowing you to emit greenhouse gases. And right now, the allowances in terms of unit sizes is one allowance is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent emission. That is per facility, per site, so it's not aggregate. So if you are a property manager of a portfolio, it isn't your total portfolio, it is on a per site basis. In terms of talking about who and how the participants are affected, basically you can look at it as two broad categories of customers. There's capped participants and non-capped. Now, the capped participants are the large emitters. The benchmark has been set, or the limit has been set at 25,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. If that facility emits more than that amount, they are mandatory participants in the program. In other words, they are required to purchase their allowances from the government, from the market, at the market rates at the time. Now, the government being the Ontario government, has allowed free allowances for these large emitters as a way to ease them into the whole program. Given that the their ability maybe to adopt energy efficiency measures or to look for opportunities to mitigate costs from the carbon cap and trade may take some time. So they've allowed them some time to adapt. The non-cap participants are small emitters emitting less than 10,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. And these would be probably 90% of our customers, homes and small businesses would fall into that category. Now there's a big gap in the middle, so the customers or emitters, facilities that emit between 10,000 tons and 25,000 tons are voluntary participants. These customers have the option of being treated as capped or being treated as non-capped. One of the things that we are trying to stay away from is guiding customers as to what is the best route for them. There really is a lot to be taken into consideration when deciding what the course of action should be if you're in that voluntary category. So we strongly encourage customers that are in that middle phase or middle group to look for some expert advice for their direction. In terms of natural gas, as I said, this is greenhouse gas emissions, so there's lots of sources of greenhouse gas emissions, and if we focus on natural gas and assume that the only source of greenhouse gas is natural gas, then you're looking at customers that use less than 5 million cubic meters of gas per year as being considered the non-capped, so that's the low emitters. Customers burning more than 13 million cubic meters of natural gas would be the large emitters. So they are the mandatory market participants, and the customers that use in between 5 million and 13 million are in the voluntary category. So it just gives you some sense of if you are managing a facility, you know what your gas consumption is, you know that there's no other sources of greenhouse gases that your facility is producing. That kind of gives you a broad idea of which category you fit in. So this is an important site. Ontario.ca / cap and trade is one site, but Ontario.ca / greenhouse gases is another site that you can go to get those details that I talked about. Now this slide is for illustrative purposes. We really wanted to give you a sense of what you can expect to see on your bill. The bill or the charges will be under the category of delivery to you charges. Another important thing to note is that there won't be a line item on your gas bill that says this is your cap and trade costs are X. So customers that are non-capped, that are low emitters, and the voluntary customers that choose to be treated as non-capped will see an increase in their gas bill starting January 1. And just to give you a sense of what that increase would be, a residential customer using about 2,400 cubic meters of gas can expect to see about $80 on their gas bill over the year. Small, medium, and large commercial customers, these could be industrial customers as well, and I'll get into the rate category, but there's not a lot of changes in the different rates. Basically, you're looking at taking your gas consumption, multiplying it by the interim rate for cap and trade that's going to be set, and that's kind of what your cap and trade costs are going to be. I talk about the interim rate, and I'll get into that, but it's a straight mathematical formula, just multiplying your gas consumption by the interim rate. Now we see a charge here for the category C and D customers. This is the voluntary category that I talked about. For customers that choose to be treated as non-capped, and they use just under 10 million cubic meters, they're going to be looking at $329,000 on their gas bill. If they choose to be treated as voluntary to be part of cap and trade, you'll see a charge there of $329,000. That is what they are going to be expecting to purchase on their own. There is free allowances that are available as well, as I said, for the voluntary customers that choose to be part of cap and trade. They will have to pursue those allowances. They have to apply for those allowances, and it's not something that is guaranteed, but they will have to go through the application process. Now, we talked a lot about the interim rate, and right now the interim rate is, I'll go back a step, is set at 3.5, I'll be more accurate, 3.518 cents per cubic meter of gas consumed. So that formula would be your consumption of natural gas times 3.518 if you are a rate 1 and a rate 6 customers, which, as I said, encompasses most of the customers in Ontario. Industrial customers, rate 135 and 170. These may not mean anything to you, but if you're an industrial customer, you would know what rate class you're in, are also at 3.518 cents per cubic meter. Now, the interim rate, as I said, was set as a way just to get the market started. So January 1, that interim rate will be applied. Throughout the year, though, a final rate is going to be adjusted by the Ontario government. And so that rate will be then applied for the balance of the year. The true-up will happen at the end of the year. So if that final rate is different than the 3.518, then there will be a true-up on your bill at the end of the year. So if it's over, you're going to get a credit. If it was under, there'll be a further charge.
Is there any reason why the line item wasn't added, like cap and trade? Why did you want to move to the delivery charge? Is there any logic behind that?
Probably. We're not going to comment on the government's decision to
I just thought you guys could see it on there.
Yeah, again, it was a decision made, and we have to kind of abide by the rulings that the Ontario government has put forward. The end of really the message here is your gas is going to go up because of cap and trade. Your gas charges, your energy charges will be going up. Really, there's a lot of things that you can do about it, though. There's energy efficiency is kind of where we can step in and support your efforts to mitigate the costs of cap and trade. There's fuel switching. You can look at fuels that are less energy intensive or less, let's say not energy intensive, but less pollute less or emit less carbon. And also, if you are a voluntary participant or a mandatory participant, you can purchase allowances for the emissions that you produce. Where Enbridge can step in is really to support, guide, provide assistance in terms of technical expertise, financial support, guidance as to what technologies can best be used to mitigate the cap and trade costs. So I really encourage, if you are interested in looking at ways to minimize the impact of cap and trade, to reach out to Enbridge or Union Gas, ask for a representative to come by your building and talk about where our programs can support you. We wanted to kind of focus on several different building types to get a sense of what and where gas is used. As you can see, it's probably no surprise that gas is predominantly used for heating. Outside of food service, it's well over 50% of the consumption or the reason why you're using gas to heat your building. There's technologies that have a direct impact on gas consumption, boilers, makeup air systems that use gas through the combustion process to produce heat. There's also technologies that control building ventilation that in themselves don't use gas but have an impact on gas savings. And that's where a lot of customers I find, and I'd say miss the boat, but don't realize that they can actually do something about their gas consumption without actually impacting a gas consuming equipment. And this is where we get into some of the technologies. We tried to get a sense of the savings potential that these technologies impact, as well as some of their incremental cost. So we see boilers obviously have a high impact. They use predominantly a lot of gas, but they come at a high cost. Makeup air units, medium to high impact on your gas consumption, with a fairly medium cost in comparison to how expensive boilers are. We have some unit heaters, pool heaters, humidification systems, which also have although a minimum or low impact on savings, but they also have a low incremental cost. So One of the things that we encourage customers is to stack measures. So if you have one measure that only produces X amount of savings, if you stack 2 or 3 measures that all at a low incremental cost, you can eventually achieve a high impact just from doing that, using that strategy. This is by no means an exhaustive list of all the different technologies that have a direct impact. And again, I encourage you to reach out to Enbridge and Union Gas for a greater list of possible technologies. This is the category that I spoke about technologies that in themselves don't use gas, but do have an impact on your gas bill. So VFDs on your ventilation systems, controls, and your building automation systems, destratification fans, air doors. Heat recovery is a growing field or a growing technology that we're seeing a lot more of in applications in both industrial and commercial, as well as food services. And we've listed roughly their incremental cost associated with those technologies. Water heating, again, you don't have to be heating the building. This is the other major use of gas is heating your domestic hot water or process water, or for food service it would be for cleaning dishes and things like that. So low flow shower heads, another way. Low savings potential, but also comes with a very low incremental cost. Let me know if I'm speeding, and if you want me to slow down. I've done this so many times it just seems to be, I tend to race through it. So this is kind of the support that Enbridge can offer. We have energy solutions consultants that come out to your site. As I said, the audit is free. We can look at the gas consuming equipment and systems in your building. We can provide cost savings estimates, financial incentive quotes. We can provide you with simple ROI estimates. And also, if you want to know what your emission reduction estimates are, we can provide that for you as well. We do a lot of the work ourselves. So the idea is not to put an onus and too much of a demand on you and your staff to provide a lot of this information. So we have, as I said, energy solutions consultants that come on site, take the information down that they need, come back to the office, we do the calculations, and we provide you the information. The idea is to encourage you to use our services. We are a neutral third party, so we're not affiliated with any one particular vendor or technology. We're dedicated to servicing our customers. So the information that we provide to you is not influenced in any way, shaped by a vendor or a third party. They are audited. Our results do go through the Ontario Energy Board audit process. So I guess the point there is that information that we provide you, we're not being conservative, we're not being optimistic, we're trying to be as accurate as possible. Really what we want to do is when we gave you an estimate as to how much gas you're going to save, you will actually realize those gas savings on your bill when you see it the next year. To get into maybe some specifics, we've taken some projects that we completed last year and ran them through an analysis where if that project were to happen this year or post 2017, where cap and trade costs would be applied, this is what this customer would have realized. In this case, we're looking at an office building that consumes 344,000 cubic meters. We're going to assume an all-in gas rate. This is just the commodity and the service charges that you see on your bill is about 25 cents per cubic meter. And assuming that the cap and trade costs will come in at what we estimated at 3.3 cents per cubic meter. The bill for this customer prior to cap and trade would have been $86,000 per year. And after 2017, that same consumption level, same customer, same bill would be $97,000 or just over $97,000. In this particular case, this customer implemented a heating boiler retrofit with a new heating boiler efficiency of 85%. They saved close to 60,000 cubic meters of gas, which is 17% of their consumption. Their cost savings is about just shy of $17,000 per year. This is on the gas bill. Their cap and trade costs, though, they've avoided paying almost $2,000 in cap and trade. The after project cost, their bill now is goes down to $80,400. Their Enbridge incentive was close to $10,000, and their total savings is almost $19,000. Someone would look at this and say, well, I'm going from 86 to 80. Really what they should be looking at is that they would have been going from 97,000 to 80,000. So there is that has to be factored when you're considering implementing efficiency measures. You have to factor in the cap and trade costs that you're going to be paying. If not, you're miscalculating the return on that investment. I'd like to just talk about the incentives, and we talked about the cap and trade costs. We talked about the technologies. Now just kind of going into how Enbridge can support those measures. We have our programs. We have commercial and industrial programs. Our commercial programs are divided between prescriptive, custom. We have audits available that we can help with, that we fund, and Run It Right, which is our operational improvement program. These are recommissioning or retro-commissioning operational improvements, low cost, no cost. Our industrial group has custom programs, and they have audits as well. The custom incentive programs are tiered, and this comes into what I was talking about before about stacking your measures. Our tiered incentive approach allows you to increase the incentives that you receive just by reaching certain levels of savings. So in this case, 10%, if you save 10% of your consumption, your incentive amount is calculated on 10 cents per cubic meter of gas that you've saved. If you can stack a few more measures and get to the 20% savings versus your total consumption, that incremental savings level is calculated at 20 cents per cubic meter of gas you save. And if you go above 20%, so let's say you do a boiler and you do a couple of other control upgrades and you get to 30% of your building consumption, anything over 20% is calculated at 30 cents per cubic meter of gas saved.
Would operational improvements include retrofits to the building envelope?
We take that on a case-by-case basis, and I'll tell you why. We're also limited on what projects qualify by what's called a TRC, or total resource cost assessment. So anything that has a payback period of more than 7 to 10 years, it won't make our TRC level qualification. So building envelopes tend to be very expensive, and they tend to have a longer payback period.
Now, is that just on the thermal insulation side of building envelope? Does that also take into account air leakage?
It takes, well, if you have infiltration and air is leaking and you need to heat that air that's being leased, yeah, so it does take into account that. Yeah. We have the prescriptive program. Prescriptive programs differ from the custom in that there's no calculations that are involved. It's essentially a slate rebate. You install a certain technology, provide us proof of payment and installation, and we provide you a check for that particular technology. It's quite simple and straightforward. There's it also applies to new construction projects, which just was approved this year. There's incentives that go to the distributor and the contractor as well to incent them to promote these high efficiency technologies. Generally, the rebates cover between 25 to 40% of the incremental cost of the technology. Some idea of the type of technologies that the prescriptive program covers. We kind of touched on the custom technologies before. So these are all prescriptive technologies that qualify for a program. There's a simple application process you go through that, again, I said just proof of purchase, proof of install, and we can move forward on providing incentives. There's space heating, water heating, and there's a whole bunch of food services, especially with Energy Star equipment that qualify for prescriptive. And as I said, they do qualify for new construction projects as well. Our industrial program is there's no prescriptive. There's custom and audits basically. So our custom industrial program works with with all our industries, from small industrial customers to large. There's a lot of process load calculations that are done, so it requires a lot more in-depth calculations. We all done at no cost to the customer. We provide incentive costs up to 50% of the project cost, or to a maximum of $100,000. And our industrial audits cover 50% of the audit costs. One thing I don't think I've mentioned, the audits for the commercial customers. I think we might get into that next, but no, the audits for commercial customers are limited to the certain sectors. So hospitals, long-term care, colleges qualify for an HVAC audit. Again, the audit funding is at 50% of the audit costs, up to $5,000 for a single site, and up to $15,000 if you have a portfolio of sites. Steam traps are covered under audits for both industrial and commercial, and they are $10 per trap, or up to a maximum of $5,000. Some of the tools that Enbridge has to support our customers: we have an Energy Solutions portal on our website. The portal is, you can sign up for the portal. There's no cost. You can also sign up for our newsletter to receive it quarterly. But the portal's great. It's a great tool. It has recorded workshops, recorded seminars on technologies, information about new technologies that are coming on stream. There's a calculator on the site that, if you wanted to have a quick and dirty calculation of what potential savings you can expect to achieve from certain technologies, you can do the calculations yourself. As well as there's some application forms online that you can just apply for yourselves. We have programs throughout the year. In this case, we have a program where we're doubling the incentive on destratification fans. There's a program going on right now for smart thermostats, where we provide up to $2,000 for the thermostat. And one of the things that newsletter does is it alerts you of upcoming campaigns. The portal also has that information, so if you wanted to know what's new or what's outside our regular program offers, you can go to the portal and find that information out. There's our thermostat program. So these are the sites that I mentioned. If you wanted to get some more information about cap and trade and dive deeper into the past the high-level view that I've provided, definitely ontario.ca/cap and trade is a site you should visit. If you wanted to know more about how cap and trade affects your gas bill, the enbridgegas.com/cap and trade is a great resource you can visit. And Enbridge Gas Business Energy Management is an idea, or you can visit to get an idea about our programs in more detail. Here's our contact information if you wanted to call us directly. I would imagine this slide would be available to you if you requested. So if you wanted to get this information sent to you, we can do that.